welcome everybody. Welcome to the Hangout. This will be a very fun one. We're talking about the iPad. I love my iPad. It's kind of changed my own approach to photography. I use it to take photos and I use it for the apps. And I invited a bunch of people. In here that are just like me. They love it. It's kind of changed their photography life, and it's really kind of added in an unexpected way. I never thought I'd be using it on a daily basis as much as I do. So we'll just have a nice conversation about all this stuff. Let's go around and have intros. I'm looking at my shirt here. It's laundry day. I don't think I like this shirt.
You should take it off.
I like it.
It's too early in the show to rip it off. You can't do that. It kind of reminds me of one of those experimental Starfleet uniforms from season 3 of Next Generation. Something Wes might wear in 10 Forward when he's getting a little homespun advice from Guinan. I don't know if I like it. This might be the last time I wear it. All right, well, enough about my shirt. Let's go to someone that's nicely dressed. Teresa Stover. Hello, Teresa.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, so tell us all about you, and we'll go give introductions. You can talk about your website. You can talk about anything you want to.
Well, I'm a photographer. I started out as a painter and was a painter for the majority of my life until I got a DSLR. And I fell in love because what I did was basically take snapshots of landscapes so that I could paint them later. But I fell in love with my pictures more than I did my paintings, so I haven't started painting again. Maybe someday. But you can find my work here on Google+, a lot of it, especially my recent stuff, or you can go to my website, teresastover.com. I do a lot of backpacking, hiking, camping. I love the outdoors, so a lot of times I will spend, sunrise and sunset just grabbing those shots. I do sell a lot to some of the tourism places around here where I live in West Virginia. And I do some portrait photography, but I do a lot of self-portrait work. That's just kind of a hobby of mine, so it's something I like doing.
All you girls get away with taking pictures of yourselves more than the guys do. And we look stupid. I mean, I've seen some of Victor's bathroom selfies, and I am out as soon as that happens.
I'm out.
No, I actually saved those to my hard drive for those lonely nights.
You put them in a special secret nested folder that sounds mysterious, and when you get to the bottom, you see Victor Cajiao in the bathroom.
That's right, baby. Don't hate. There's a lot to love here. Don't hate. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Victor, why don't you introduce yourself here?
Trey, thanks for having me on. I'm Victor Cajiao, hardest name to pronounce in the entire internet. That's how you'll remember me. And I am a podcaster primarily. Been doing this since 2005, way back in the day when microphones were little tiny things. And I started out as a PC podcaster, and then I switched to the Mac, and I became passionate about that. And I've been doing that show for 6 years. And then I've been a photographer all my life in one form or the other. But I wanted to get better. So I started the second show I do, which is called Typical Shutterbug, where I have people on like, Trey and other photographers. And we all learn as a community about photography. And I get better. And you guys get to come along for the ride. And it's really super fun. And right now I'm just starting a new show because I just moved away from the DSLR world into a rangefinder, a Leica, and so I'm once again in this wonderful position to be a work in progress and to learn. And so I get to start this new show, and I get to learn, and a whole new community of people hopefully will come over with me and watch me fumble and watch me grow. And I can't wait. Life's good, really, really good.
Well, that's exciting. And one of the reasons you're doing this new Rangefinder podcast is because of the great Eric Kim here, who I'm very excited to have on the show. And he's going to share all kinds of work with us today. But go ahead and say hello, Eric.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Eric Kim. I'm a street photographer based here in LA. I travel all around the world, and I teach street photography workshops. I, take photos of people in the street without their permission. often getting really close and using a flash. Half the internet hates me, but I do what I love, and I try to do it with an open heart. I shoot with Leicas. The last 3 months, I've actually been shooting primarily or exclusively film. I recently inherited a Leica M6 from my good friend. So, yep, real film. You should get stickers for all your fans of these. But it's really taught me a lot of patience and waiting to process my work. I recently came back from a trip in Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, as well as London, and I have around like 20 rolls of Portra 400 that I shot, and I have some new black and white work I haven't published yet on the internet, which I'll show later.
Oh, good. We get to see brand new stuff. I'm excited. And Victor, you've taken one of Eric's seminars, right?
I did, and I got the bug, and Eric has a really contagious way of grabbing you and making you shake up your own rules, and that's what I loved about him. And a lot of people would say, well, some of what he does is not conventional. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed. I needed to change it up, and I was able to, go to his seminar and say, wow, I lit the little fuse of passion again, and it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, Victor only got punched twice. I kid.
Cool. All right. Well, somebody else that Victor recommended that we bring in here is Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Trey. Thanks for having me on. My name's Steve Stanger, and you can find out more about me over at stevestanger.com. It's my about.me page. And I'm a photographer, podcaster like Victor, and also an IT guy. That's what I do professionally. And my two podcasts is The Mac Attack, and I think you could kind of figure out what that show's about. And the new one is I Shoot iPhone. I was really kind of surprised that there wasn't an iPhone photography podcast at around the end of last year. And I'm fairly new to the iPhone. I waited till it came to Verizon. So I've had it for a little over a year now, have been hugely into photography for a number of years. So this kind of took the place, my iPhone took the place of a point and shoot I always made sure I had with me. I shoot a Nikon and just recently got a Nikon D7000. So I'm not one of these people that feel the iPhone is going to, or iPhone photography is going to take over the world, if you will. But one of the things I've discovered, just kind of really being involved in this group and doing the podcast and hearing from listeners, a lot of people discovered their passion for photography, which is really kind of exciting. They've never really kind of thought about photography before. And, a lot of it was like, well, how did you get that from an iPhone? Are you, really, you didn't take that with your Nikon and process it and share it on Instagram or something? It's like, no, you can actually get some really amazing photos with, and this is the iPhone 4, the 4S even, of course, builds on that. But hearing that, hearing from listeners now and followers on Google Plus and Twitter, that they're now asking recommendations for cameras because they're that their photography, this love for photography that they gained through the iPhone has expanded.
Yeah, it's a great kind of gateway drug. I think people don't realize that they like photography until they have an iPhone. They're like, "Whoa, this is kind of fun." And I actually think it's not just the iPhone, but I think it's iPhone like plus Facebook plus Google Plus or whatever. Because once they start sharing an interesting photo with people and they get comments, right? It's the photo plus the comments that makes it interesting and a slippery slope for people, because people start getting feedback on their own little artistic ideas here or there. And if they think a tree is interesting or a leaf is interesting, they're like, well, I think it maybe, they don't know. And they take a picture, they put it on Facebook and people comment. And it's like, wow, it's interesting, actually. I remember the first time I started sharing photos online, even though it was a long time ago. It's very interesting what this feedback does to you. Yeah. Well, let me, I'm going to start by showing off the new 2.0 of Stuck on Earth, which just came out, I think, yesterday. And it's got this awesome new feature that was actually recommended by Robert Scoble. He was with me in Yosemite, and he was using the app. And he said, well, gosh, Trey, if we could just do this one thing, it would be awesome. And I got my head around what he was saying and thought, okay, well, we can do that. It took a long time. We finally got it in, and he's right. It's really cool. Plus, we have these other new features. So I'm going to grab my webcam here and aim it at my iPad and kind of show you guys what's cool about it. And by the way, this app is free, still free. So go grab it and love it and tell your friends. That's all I ask. Okay, here we go. So I'll give you a little elevator pitch if you don't know what Stuck on Earth is. It's sort of the ultimate guide for explorers, for photographers, and for daydreamers. I really tried to reinvent the travel guide and help you find awesome places on Earth to go visit as quickly as possible. Okay, so let's see it. Go.
Whoa.
Let me show you my crock here.
Okay.
Hold on a second here. I don't know. Is this backwards?
No, it's good.
Okay, it looks backwards on my screen. So let me start it up here.
Welcome back, Trey. I miss you.
Hi, Karen.
Wow.
That's a little Easter egg for me.
Wow.
Okay, let me turn down Karen. Karen, we love you, Karen, but we'll just turn you down for now.
That's pretty
Okay,
hot.
so, sorry, it's so shaky. Let me get my act together here. Okay, so I'm going to go explore the world, and I'll show you kind of the two new cool features, okay? So here's Italy. I wonder if I can hang my... No, I'll just hold it all shaky. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. Let's go into, like, Venice. And, of course, what this is sort of a smart layer on top of Flickr, okay?
Nice.
So this is going to pull in a bunch of really cool spots all over Venice, all right? And one thing that happened before is as soon as you would click on a picture, it would sort of take over the whole screen, right? Now you'll notice it just kind of floats on top of the screen. Okay, so it kind of floats up here like a window with a little shadow, which is cool. And then as you scroll through and find different places that you might want to visit, of course, you can still add them to your trips and that sort of thing. But let's say that you're scrolling through and you're not exactly sure where it is. You can minimize it, right, by hitting, there's this little X button up here now.
Nice.
The focus. If you hit this, what will happen is it will zoom down and show you exactly where it is.
Nice.
So it's a really nice way to surf around and find good locations. Okay, now here's the thing that Scoble recommended, all right, which is really awesome. So, you know, people aren't really the best planners, and it takes a while to maybe go add these places to your trip. He said, wouldn't it be awesome if I could take all these places and just create a trip out of them? So no matter what your zoom level is, if you go down here, there's this new option down here called Download All, okay? And if I click on this, it will download all the images to a new trip. Okay, so I'll just type in Italy here. I'll say okay. And then it will download all those images to your iPad, so they're available offline, and you can look at them later on the plane or when you're walking around the city. It saves the local map information. It saves everything. So actually, it doesn't even just get what's on the map, but it also gets a little radius around the outside of the map too. It gets a little bit of extra too. So it's a really fun way for you to kind of plan your next little photo outing.
That's really cool.
All right, so that's 2.0, and that just got into the App Store yesterday. Still free.
Sweet.
So grab it. And look who's joined us, the great Andy Ihnatko. Hello, Andy. Can you hear us? Over. Uh-oh. We're having broadcast problems with Andy. Dave, maybe you can help him diagnose the problem, and we'll talk to him in a minute. But while that's going on, let me go to you, Victor.
Yes.
So, Victor, I've turned into an Apple fanboy in the past few years, but I feel like I just kind of caught up with you. You might be the hardest core. I like to think I'm still objective because at least I have an Android phone. You know, I have sort of a balanced life, right? I have an Android phone, which I use for, you know, human communication and a few apps.
Mhm.
And then I have my iPad, which I use for like more full screen and frankly more robust apps, right? So I'm not fully into the Apple camp like you are. And so you do this photography podcast, you do a Mac podcast, so you are fully, deeply swimming in the milieu of it all. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how you use the iPad and how it's kind of changed your life for photography and this sort of thing.
Well, I think the biggest change for me is the same reason I switched to Macs was because it was going to change. I could use it as a tool. When I was a PC user, it was controlling me, and I wanted to create. I was a professional saxophonist most of my life. I love creating stuff, and when I got the Mac, I finally found the vehicle which would let me create, whether it was a podcast, photography, music, which I love, Logic, and so it's just one ecosystem that lets me do all of that, no matter where I'm at. And now with this version of the iPad, I think we really have turned a corner when it comes to making this a creation device in the truest sense of the word. I'm working right now on a new CD, which will be out next year. Before I would have to wait till I got home and jot some ideas musically. Now I can turn on GarageBand and if I want, just, put the idea down in voice. And it's just, it follows me wherever I go. And to me, that's been the key. And the other thing for me, it's the social thing. I mean, I grew up a geek. I was a loner a lot of my life. Surprise.
Oh.
And, all of a sudden, I was able to have this entire community of people who we had something in common. And so to me, it's been a great catharsis, I think. And that's why I'm all in. And I don't have to be, I'm not a journalist. I don't have to be like Andy, who is a journalist and has to say that. I can be part fanboy, but still true to when I do reviews and things like this. I want to make sure I keep the ethics up because the people who listen to the show have come to hopefully respect what I have to say. And so it's just a lot of fun, Trey. It's just a wonderful thing. But biggest change I've seen in the iPad for me has not been with me. It's been with my wife. Her dad's really sick. Her family's really sick. And after FaceTime, I've seen their entire relationship change because of that device. And they talk every night and they have this incredible relationship. And I get to watch it. And it is that to me, when Steve Jobs used to talk about magic, that to me is magic. When I get to see that human interaction, to me, that's why these guys have $100 million in the bank. It's because the magic is in people and the device brings it all together.
Yeah, it's true. It does really change your behavior a lot in very human ways. I'm amazed at how much it's changed everything in my family. In fact, I think that actually, like if you have a family and you buy an iPad, at first you might think you're buying it for yourself, but it's the whole family's, right? The thing is in demand. It's constantly being passed around. And when it's not being used, it's at 0% and being recharged, and someone in the house is in a state of angst. It's really wild. And so, we've had to get multiple of them. And I use it now. Personally, my thing is that, I think as an artist, we all kind of hate to be categorized, right, in this sort of Socrates-type reductionist world that we accidentally live in, where everyone wants to categorize you and say, well, what kind of photography do you take? And I hate that because I don't want to say like I'm landscape or HDR or anything like that, because people immediately have something in their head, right? What that means, right? And then you have to fight against that, whatever it might be. So the idea that I can take this chunk of my artistic self, have it in a little portfolio on the iPad. And so they ask me this and I say, well, I'm not going to answer, just look, right? And then they get to touch and move through it and take their time. Then they can see, an unobstructed, uncategorizable view of my oeuvre. And that would have been impossible, just a few years ago. And I think it's a really exciting way for photographers to interact with people right around them. Do you find yourself showing your iPad around a lot, Victor?
Yeah, a successful day of my iPad is out of my hand in somebody else's hand 75% of the time because of what you just said. It's like people want to touch it, and then when they're looking through it, I'm like, yeah, explore, do what you need to do. And for me, it's both the music and the photography thing kind of just come together. So I tend to always show my picture with music playing, and turning people on to artists that I love. I love an artist named Pat Metheny, and a lot of people don't know about Pat. And,
I know Pat.
Well, if you know him personally, say hi, because he's a hero of mine. He because of what he does musically, and I love turning people on to him. And so the iPad gives me this great avenue to do that. And I share my pictures constantly with people, or just pictures, your pictures, a lot, because they're all on my iPad. I think all of them now.
Oh, I don't know how that happened. You got to get them off of there.
No.
Which pictures are you talking about?
Yeah, are those my bathroom selfies that you have?
No. These days it's just like lens porn. I mean, those are the kind of pictures that are.
Nice one.
You just look at those in bed after your wife falls asleep.
Yeah, it's just like, Sumatron, man.
It's too much. It's too much. Hey, Andy, how's your situation over there?
Well, at least now the computer works. Everything else is still gone to crap, but at least this conversation is going on.
Well, I'm happy to see you. You kind of missed our introduction, so take a minute to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do and where we can find you and that sort of thing.
I'm Andy Ihnatko. What I tell people that are trying to ban me from exclusive places is that I'm the technology columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times. But on a more personal level, I'm just a regular Bostonian, photo nut, geek, nerd, that sort of stuff. And if you can spell my last name, you can go to ihnatko.com. Most people can't spell my last name, so you can just go to cwob.com for the celestial waste of bandwidth, and that'll link you to my blogs and my Flickr and my Twitter and that sort of stuff.
Well, cool. And I think one of the most interesting things about you, Andy, is you not only understand the innards of what's happening, but you really analyze the iPad as sort of this human behavioral interspecies type. You analyze it all on a meta level. And so what do you see happening now with photography and the iPad? And as the camera gets better and better and better, do you think that people's human interaction with it will change as they move around the world and capture it?
I'm not sure it's going to happen with the iPad, because you still have just such fundamental human problems of, I mean, how do you walk around like this and take pictures? I mean, I was taking sample photos over the weekend for my review for the Sun-Times, and man alive, as you can guess, I have a pretty high dork threshold, but I just felt like, oh, what am I doing here? What's happening? Although I got to admit, there was a sort of like really cool, like Matthew Brady sort of cosplay vibe going on. We need like one of those blackout curtains, so you just basically hide behind it and wave up in the air. But I mean, the one thing that really struck me though is that as I started, when I unboxed the iPad and I started like looking at my own photos on this thing, the more I looked at my own photos on this, the more photos I wanted to look at, because it's one thing to have pictures in a window and click on links and follow like a slideshow, but there's another thing to have this tangible object in your hand. And it's another thing to be inside someone's house, and AirPlay is really, really cool. But isn't there something really just very, very fundamental about having a picture and simply handing it to somebody and saying, "Hey, take a look at what I shot over the weekend," or "Hey, here's I went to the ball game last weekend and I saw this weirdest looking guy 3 seats over, and here it is." I mean, anything that makes pictures just more tactile and more fungible has got to be a good thing. As a matter of fact, even more than the new iPad, I think just the new version of iOS iPhoto is just such a revelation, because I've got Aperture, I got CS5, I've got all these really cool high level professional level tools for manipulating RAWs all the way up and down the spectrum. But this ability to simply just touch a photo and just interact with it directly and say, nope, I want to affect this, and this. I want you to scrub out this, but I want this part of it to be preserved. I think it'll cause more people to get more interested in the pictures that they're taking. And then, given that the fruits of your labors are just 2 taps away from sharing it with your friends and with the world, what use is a photo if it's just stuck on your own devices? I mean, photos want to be published, even if it's just to your parents, even if it's just to your best friend. My biggest personal disappointment, I think, as a photographer, outside of my limited skills, of course, is the fact that oftentimes I will take like 500 pictures over the weekend, and then I'll winnow them down to like 80, and then I'll be just at the 10-yard line of, okay, well, let's cut that down to maybe 30 more, and then add captions, then we'll post a Flickr, and something happens, I don't wind up pressing that final button. So once a device like the iPad, new iPad, especially with iPhoto, it gets you out of that head, I think, and gets you to the point of, hey, this thing I just did is really, really cool. I need to share it with somebody right now.
Yeah, I've noticed something strange too, behaviorally, around the way that I use the iPad, and the way I notice other people use it. There's something childlike about touching it. It almost harkens back to something, very Pleistocene about us. Like we're actually touching the walls of the cave and moving stuff around. And I noticed that when people are holding the iPad, it's different. When I'm going through it, I'm forcing a slideshow. But when they go through it, they're very connected to the art. There's something deeper happening with
finger painting.
With the photo.
Yeah. Well,
it's finger painting. No, my point is it's finger painting. When you don't think about it, but when we're using these photo apps and watching other people use photo apps, it's all about this. It's tactile, and it really does harken back a lot. It's digital finger painting, and it's a lot more advanced, but that's, I think, a big part. I think ties in to what Trey was saying. I think it's beyond the wall painting stage, but I think there is something in all of us going back to kindergarten and first grade and preschool, where that's maybe where that kind of creative joy in its most basic form comes from.
I think it might even be more than that. I love the fact that here's like one of my iPad sample photos, which is this beautiful like 10,000 pixel wide lithograph from 1840 something of Boston's Public Garden, and there's no way that you can get into the entire thing. Come on, why did you scroll? You're being mean to me, iPad. Anyway, here's again. But I mean, there are details in this. So basically, it's possible to take really like an 1840 something tour of Boston's Public Garden by choosing which parts of this you want to zoom in on, and then taking a walk through. So you're not even really limited to whatever the photographer wants to crop, how he wants to crop it down, and what he thinks that you want to focus in on. I mean, when I first encountered this scan, it came from the Boston Public Library archives. The first time I took a trip through this 150-year-old version of the Public Garden, I'm like, well, I'm a big fan of the Public Garden, so I'm walking the exact same paths, obviously in a 2D plane, but that way. And then I encounter at what must be like 8 pixels high, a child like rolling a hoop on a stick. And I was so thrilled because that detail was nowhere to be seen at any resolution other than maximum resolution, then slowly scrolling and investigating every part of it. So yeah, I mean, there is the finger painting aspect of it. There is the pounding on a piece of plasticine and just seeing what emerges from it. That no darkroom technique and no copy of Photoshop has ever been able to manage.
Hey, Leo, thanks for joining us. How are you? Over, broadcast professional.
I was muted. Hey, everybody. Hey, Victor. Hey, Trey.
Hey,
Good
Leo.
to see you, Andy. Wow, what a great
Miles.
group you got going here.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to ask Victor a question. Did you see Andy doing that? I have that problem where I have giant photos in my iPhoto. That's where I keep my portfolio, right? They're like 6,000 pixels across.
Yep.
And I would like my 6,000 pixel photo to be on my iPad, but it's downsizing a little bit. And then I want to do the pinchy like he does. And it unpinches. What's going on? Why can't I control that?
Well, I think it's a matter of just, I think different people's fingers, believe it or not, my fingers sometimes do funny things with it as well. But it really depends on that part of it. And it does definitely downsize the picture. So for me, I haven't had any of that particular problem myself. I don't know technically what's happening as far as what they're doing. Maybe Andy, you have some insight as to why that is, but it's just a matter of making the graph. Sometimes you just miss.
Yeah, I think there's a file size issue. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the entire photo as is directly from the archives onto the iPad. Actually, I had to scrunch it down to something that would be under 25 megabytes in size for that single file. But the original is a TIFF that's 180 megabytes.
Oh wow!
So I know it was a fool's errand to say, well, I know I'll just put it in my Dropbox and put a download link to it and email it to myself. That'll work just fine. No, it didn't. It really didn't.
So, by the way, for everyone watching,
I suspect Apple really thinks of.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Leo. Do you want to say something?
I suspect that what it is that Apple really doesn't think of the iPad as a endpoint for other stuff like that you took with your other computer. I mean, yeah, it had the camera connection kit and all that, but really, I think what their whole vision is: you take it on the iPad, you edit it on the iPad, and you post it from the iPad. So I don't think they even thought about somebody putting a 100 megabyte TIFF on there.
Well, they do for iPhoto. The maximum file limit is something like I'm going to get this wrong, but somewhere between 20 and 30 megabytes. Excuse me, it can handle upwards of a 24 megapixel file. And that includes like the raw tag to it. They're actually pretty bullish about the idea of using the iPad or even iPhoto, even if you're just using it as a triage tool for your raw files. Like obviously you can't process raw because iOS fundamentally doesn't support raw decoding. But yeah, every time I've talked to Apple about iPhoto, they've been really, really eager to get my questions about, well, what if I'm using the iPad as my only thing in the field when I'm taking vacation pictures, and I don't want to have to bring my MacBook with me just to dump things at apertures. Oh no, it works great at that. There are a couple limitations, but no, it's great. It's great.
Really? I'm surprised because it's clearly a kind of an edge case for the iPad.
Yeah. There are a lot of photographers, though. We've saw this because we get support questions we have an iPad camera app called 100 Cameras in One, and we get a lot of support questions. There's a ton of photographers in the field that are taking their raw files and dumping them all onto their iPad, and they want to be able to edit them right there. I thought that was sort of an edge case, but it is happening a lot. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
Well, with this new screen, it's better than any photo, wallet that's out there, I guess. What's the gamut on this screen? Is it pretty good?
I do not know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I mean, I know these are good screens, but when photographers edit, they want a screen with a good color gamut and the right color space. I don't know if
warmer.
I don't know if they paid much attention to that either.
That's okay. I like a warmer photo personally. So, by the way, let me tell everyone watching kind of what we're going to do tonight. We're going to loosely talk about some cool apps and stuff for the iPad and how we use it for photography, and we'll go around and let everyone talk about that. And then also, we have a lot of really good photographers here, and I want people to share some of their own work. And like we have Eric Kim here, who's an amazing street photographer. We have Teresa Stover. She's an amazing artist. I mean, you'll see when we go through this later in the show. And then we'll end by sharing a few little photography discoveries that we've made lately and kind of, share the love. And we're watching for Q&A questions along the way in the chat room. So let me jump to Teresa, since she hasn't really had a chance to talk yet. Hey, so Teresa, tell us a little bit about how you use the iPad for your photography life and your art life.
Oh, I love it. I take it with me, but right now I'm addicted. I'm addicted to Temple Run. I broke 1 million points, but I'm trying to surpass that at the moment.
Gee, I think you'd be really good and draw something, Teresa.
Yes, I use it a lot with my website. It's really incredible. It has a Zenfolio app for iPad that works wonderfully. You can go right to any gallery and just, like if I have a client that they want to see other clients' pictures, if I'm out at lunch or something, I can just pull that up and show them my works, like my portfolio. But it goes even further than that. Like if I have clients for my landscape work, I can use it for that. So it's a beautiful tool. I just always have it with me. Even sometimes I'll take it on my hikes and kind of do a little video documentary of different campsites so that I won't forget, where this is at. It's wonderful for so many purposes, and ever since I've gotten it, I love it.
Yeah, it's funny how you kind of create people don't know how much they're going to use it before they get it, and then it starts leaking their way into their life. You just carry it around all the time.
Yes, it fits in my camera backpack so wonderfully, just in a little slot in the side. And the battery life is incredible because, I can charge it and it'll last like all weekend. I love it.
It's like a conjoined twin that never fell off.
It really is. It's hard to do without it. Once you have it, it's really difficult to live without it.
Yeah.
And the FaceTime, like he said before, is wonderful to be able to talk to your loved ones, and Instagram and all of those wonderful little fun photo.
So you
apps.
use the Instagram, you use the iPhone app on the iPad?
I do, yes.
Yeah, so do I.
Mostly around the house. It's not like I take it out a lot and use the Instagram, but just with little things like with my granddaughter or my kids or whatever, I'm snapping some shots of them using the artsy tools, because it's so nice to be able to get a different look just with one little click.
Yeah, I hope they make an Instagram for the iPad. Maybe they will. So, Steve, you're kind of the master of all apps, according to Victor. So just give us some rapid fire apps that we should have as photographers to make our lives more complete.
Okay, this one might sound like it's out of left field, but you know content aware fill, if you're not familiar with it, it was the big thing that was in the last version of Photoshop. It allows you to pretty much erase things from the photo that you don't want, and this technology, this content aware fill technology, is smart enough to fill in that area. Now, everybody on this panel, of course, knows what it is, but just kind of explaining it for the viewers. Well, there's a app for the iPad called Retouch HD that allows you to do content-aware fill. It is unreal. Like every time you use it, and Leo's showing it, and actually I was going to hold it up myself. Every time you run it, it should go ta-da when it's done with. It is that clean, and what's really cool about it too is it does offer the stamp tool, or that allows you to go in and again, those of you familiar with Photoshop and the other apps that allow you to not only do this content aware fill, but to actually be able to go ahead and, I know it's not going to be viewable, but actually allow you to use a stamp tool where you take one part of the photo and fix another part of a photo. But it just does such a clean job, and it's probably not an app people think of when they think of, you know, iPhone and now pretty much iPad apps. They're thinking photo apps, or they're thinking editor, you know, anything that I can do. I mean, and that's kind of a major use for, you know, this Retouch HD. If you're doing, you know, if you're editing stuff from your camera, we all have dust, you know, sensor dust or noise. In the least, you would use it just for that, just to go in and clean up any kind of, you know, minor things that just would kind of catch your eye when you're looking at a photo. Another app, of course, which I think everybody here probably has heard about, is Snapseed. Another huge app from the folks at Nick Software. They Nick Software makes a ton of really good plugins for Photoshop, and for Snapseed, it's I think $5 for the iPad, and actually I think if it was $35, it would still be worth it. It was probably the first app on my iPad 1 that got me actually dumping photos from my memory card out of the camera directly onto my iPad to see what Snapseed could do with that stuff. And it actually did a pretty cool job. Snapseed's also available on OS X too.
Hey, Steve, by the way, I'm jumping in with a important message from RC Concepcion. He is making the bold statement with which I agree. We never edit our photos on the iPad, but it's good that it's there. Please continue your app descriptions. Go on.
Well, you know what? I think that, okay. Well, I was going to say, I think there's a market for people to edit their iPhotos on the iPad and actually be really kind of happy with the results, especially like Andy said, with iPhoto and even Photoshop Touch, just amazing type stuff. Before iPhoto and Photoshop Touch came out, it's still there, but another app that I turned to that just really had a lot of horsepower behind it on the iPad is PhotoForge 2. And that was one of the first photo apps that I came across that actually allowed you to do layering. And not only layering, but also allow you to do blend modes in between those layers. A little clunky as far as the interface goes, but, you know, it was pretty good. And then, of course, there's this, you know, this one app down here, which, of course, we have to show. How is that showing up on the screen?
New one.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting. And you know what I was going to suggest, and maybe it's in the works or not. There's a lot of apps that are making the jump from the iPad, from iOS to OS X. Like I mentioned Snapseed already. Is there any chance it might make the move from iOS?
There's a chance.
There's always a chance, right?
It's done. Okay. It's very hard to build all these apps. It's
sure.
Ended up. It's very time consuming. You know, there's only so many cycles in the day, but we want to do everything. Hey, Steve, while I've got you on the horns here, why doesn't anyone talk about this Photoshop app? What's it called? Photoshop Touch?
PS Touch, right.
Yeah. What's up?
POS. Sorry.
I mean, and you know what? It's actually, I just got it when I got my iPad 3. I had an iPad, the original iPad, up until Friday. So I haven't given it that much time. I think one of the problems, and I will lump, and maybe it's not fair to, but lump Photoshop Touch and iPhoto together, there's somewhat of a learning curve, not a horrible learning curve, but it seems like somewhat of a learning curve over some of these the majority of other photo apps that are available for the iPad and for the iPhone. So maybe that's part of the problem. I mean, is there something you've heard about the Photoshop app that I haven't? I know when it first came out, people were complaining because it is somewhat lower res than people, as far as what the file size it supported, but the iPad is not going to handle a 20 meg. Well, we've discussed that. It's not going to handle these huge files very well.
Yeah.
So what have you heard?
I don't really have much of an opinion on it. Yeah. So,
well, my beef with it is that it's not really an iOS app. They didn't do anything, I think, to really take advantage of the fact that you're running on this great operating system. They just have sort of a canvas that's roughly the size of an iPad screen into which they dump buttons that, for God's sakes, they're not going to be able to. They have to make sure that whatever they do in the iPad version, they can also do in every Android version that they burn. So it's really not optimized for this device that we've all chosen. I used it when it first came out on the iPad 2. And it has a bunch of it really is essentially Photoshop elements for the iPad, and that's a big container of really cool features. So if all it does is let you take the group shot and swap in the head of the one person who decided to be making a face at the time that the shutter was clicked, that's a cool feature, but it's not implemented really well because it's very, very slow. It's not very responsive at all. Fine-tuning the results, which is always necessary when you're using the desktop version of these features, is really clunky and cumbersome. I thought it was really, really cool, but only in the sense that there wasn't another app that was really in its class for iOS. And then not 1 week later, iPhoto was released, and suddenly this became Photoshop became really, for me at least, a niche product that you would recommend if you needed those couple of features that aren't available in other apps. But otherwise, if you're just looking for a good way to turn raw in the sense of just freshly shot pictures into something you're willing to share with the outside world, I don't think Photoshop is really. I really think it's iPhoto.
Yeah, iPhoto is so slick. Those guys are amazing.
What I find really interesting is that now with products like iPhoto and the iPad, all of a sudden, this touching this device in order to work with my photos feels so natural that I'm finding myself going on my MacBook Air and wanting to touch the screen and do the same thing. And I think one of the most exciting things is that developers are going to start thinking really differently about how they design UI in the traditional laptop or whatever Mac you're using happens to be. I think this is just the catalyst to that, because we are thinking about these devices and how we're manipulating our photos in a totally different way. It's so much more natural for me to go here and just make something darker and be the brush. I don't have to worry about the mouse or this other device. I can actually just be the brush, and the touch might be different for me. So I think we're just getting started. I can't wait until I can use this to control my photo editing and processing on my Mac.
I think it'll really happen when we can touch the back of the screen, because your finger does occlude what you're trying to do. That's the main reason I use Photoshop, and I use a pen and a tablet, because otherwise your finger occludes a very important part of what you're trying to work on. And once we get back sensors, that'll come at some point, I assume, then we can really do some stuff, I think. Hey, Eric, let's take this
Yes, sir.
opportunity to move into some of your amazing street photography. I mean, I've wanted you to come on forever, and you're kind of a hardcore dude when it comes to this stuff, and just amazing. And I want everyone to share their photos, and Andy and can show photos, and Leo and everybody. But let's start with you, Eric.
All right, so I just did this press screen share.
Yeah, click screen share, and then click on your desktop. Your desktop is the safest thing to click on, unless you've got some bathroom selfies that you don't want to
Okay. Let's
share. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Yes, he must not be using Chrome. Sometimes if he's using Safari, that'll happen. Let's jump to somebody else to share photos. How about you, Teresa?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. I'll screen share.
Wait till people see your work. They'll be, wow.
You think so?
Excited. I know so.
Well, I hope so.
Have you done this screen sharing before?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Just making sure the right window was up. Can you see?
Yes, we see.
Okay, this is where I live. Not actually literally, but one of the places close to where I live. I frequent quite often. This is the New River Gorge. I mentioned that there's a lot of tourists that come here, whitewater rafting, rock climbing. Beautiful, beautiful place. And this is what it looks like in the spring. Gorgeous place. I love to hike, go to all these remote, hard to get to places. This actual overlook is kind of private. There's not a lot of people that frequent this, but it's very pretty. Cool. This is one of my first long exposure experiments. I do love playing around with that. This was taken in at my state. I rarely get out of my state. It's terrible. But I do love experimenting with long exposure. This one actually was at night, and I was such a rookie. I didn't know how to level the horizon because everything I was looking at was black. So I had to kind of wing that one, straighten it up a little bit in Photoshop after. But those colors that's there was the actual colors. I didn't alter those at all. Thought they were very pretty. This here is one of my self-portraits. I do a lot of that. I took this one actually right in front of my house, a little patch of forest. I like to create more of a story with my pictures. Something that I would show someone and then they would take this picture and just finish the story. This is another one that was taken close. Just a little moody. I'm kind of moody. This is
Cliff Bays from the chat room says that you are of the Fae.
This is also one of the great places in New River Gorge. Beautiful, beautiful high waterfall. I don't know if you can see the one in the back here. Very massive waterfall, and then it flows down. A lot of the rafters will stop at this little particular spot and get out. It's just like a paradise. It's so beautiful. This is not me. This is one of the people that that models for me occasionally. But I love to create this atmosphere. Just work with the land. I love the natural feel to things. Love doing that, and this is me. I just love fog. Fog is like one of my favorite things. If I can just get me some fog, I can make some pictures. This is another self-portrait. This one is actually on exhibit right now through the rest of this month. This is one of my favorite pictures, the winter scene. This was taken a couple winters ago. We didn't receive that much snow this year, actually. And this is another one of my favorites. So I try to work with what I've got here. I love the city, but we don't have big cities around here very often. So I try to just take advantage of what surrounds me, the mountains and the creeks and the lakes and streams and waterfalls. This is one of my favorite places, Dolly Sods, West Virginia. I don't know if many of you have heard of that, but it's beautifully photographic. Just wonderful, wonderful rock formations, mountains in the distance, and there's so many things to do. A lot of hiking, backpacking, wilderness designated area. So that's some of my pictures. I just wanted to show you.
And those are on Zenfolio. Are those for sale? People watch this and they want to go buy your work, and they go.
I do have some stuff for sale, yes, but a lot of it I don't put up for sale. If you look on my featured galleries, you'll see what I do have that's for sale. And that's my stuff.
Well, thank you for sharing during sharing time. Now, let's pass the talking pillow to Andy. You have some stuff you want to share, Andy?
Sure. Give me 1 second. Let me open up a preview window here.
So, Andy, I guess I didn't even really know that you take photography kind of seriously.
I take the fun of photography pretty seriously. Every time I see like really good landscape pictures like that, and the kind of imagination that goes into it, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm really not that good of a photographer. But we
all think that. Don't worry.
Well, the cool thing about digital photography is that you get to you really do get to see the entire progression of your picture taking just in one big album. In my Flickr feed, I have one big file that I've had since 2005, 2006. At any time I shoot something that I think that is in and of itself a pretty good photo, I will just put that in that file. Maybe I don't necessarily think that the same of it as the years go by, but at least at the time, I felt as though I had figured out just a little something there. Also, I will say, as I'm doing it, there you go. It's doing a select all and a open. I will also say that you'll probably get the impression that whatever my skills happen to be, I'm a big fan of Cartier-Bresson. I'm a big fan of. I'm also a really big fan of Ouija. And every time I look at books of those kinds of street pictures, I'm just doing nothing but thinking, oh man, they just got there at exactly the right time, exactly the right place. If only that you really do wish that you could develop that kind of eye for yourself. Okay, so now for good or for ill.
All right, hey Leo, T. George in the chat room says that you are next.
No, I am not.
No.
Now that Eric is back, I'm not doing anything. I'm staying well away from it. You guys are way too. After seeing Teresa's, I'm just gonna watch Andy.
Okay.
I got nothing. I do have, while Andy's vamping, I'm going to let Andy vamp, but while Andy's doing that, I do want to say, I don't know if you've talked about it, but one of the things I'm finding really cool about the new iPad is it's like a view camera. You have this, really good image of what you're taking a picture of, and for video, to be able to see the video as it's going to play on this camera is a remarkable experience. I think.
No, I agree. I think you're right on. There's something to seeing the big image while you take it. I think it's pretty fun. And Eric, you were just overseas in Hong Kong. I've noticed overseas, I see a lot of people who are less self-conscious than, as vain American unicorns.
Yeah.
They'll walk around with it and they'll just be doing everything.
No, us Asians have no shame of taking photos with iPads and looking like fools.
I have this case that has a flap on it, and it really is great because it's kind of like a view camera. It actually blocks out the sun, and you can actually see what you're taking a picture on. That wasn't my intent, but because if you flip the case over, it blocks the camera. You have to do it that way, and I love it. It's great. It's total. In fact.
Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Yeah, we got you, Andy. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Okay, well, I think there's like a half dozen here. This is I have some recurring subjects that I keep coming back to. I love the MIT flea market, which is every month from like April through October. and that's where I started like breaking down my non-Chinese abilities. No, they're people in this picture. I shouldn't take pictures of people like spontaneously. But then when someone has a Recessa Annie doll they're trying to sell, and their kid is so incredibly excited to show you that if you peel back the eyelids, you'll notice that one pupil is smaller than the other. That suggests that she's got a concussion. Woo! And then you're just happy that you happen to like just instinctively just like taking pictures instead of just asking for permission. I'm kind of fond of this one. I wish that I had been smart enough to see this picture when I was taking it, as opposed to simply taking a full figure of this street performer playing her bass. You just wish you could set the Wayback Machine and say, oh, wouldn't that be good at like 10 megapixels wide, and then make a nice print of it. So we live, we learn, we love. This is another one that, again, I'm just really pleased with it. It's also, it really does highlight for me the difference between the mindset that I'm in when I'm taking pictures and the mindset that I get in when I don't have a camera in my hands. I was just taking pictures. I was hoping to get some foreground interest so that we see some interaction between, they're playing in the middle of the street and there are people who are walking by not really noticing. And it wasn't until I got back home that I realized that the woman on the cell phone has a clap hands say yeah t-shirt on. So, which I thought was kind of appropriate for the subject. See, I realize that most of the stories that come to mind are really like missed opportunities and why didn't I do this a little bit better? This is across the street from a really cool diner in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Miss Worcester Diner. Beautiful, beautiful diner. But there's this really cool kind of derelict old car. There's lots of really cool colors there. I had my tripod. I was there really to take HDR shots of the diner anyway. So I just decided, oh, this is a good scene. Let's take a shot of this. And I wound up, and I am a little bit, I'm not exactly particular about saying, well, I might be selling these pictures, so I should get written releases from everybody. Well, no, I'm just taking pictures for fun, so I don't do that. But if I go on someone's property, you fear that little head poked out the window saying, hey, what are you doing here? So this was actually outside a tattoo parlor. So I walked into the tattoo parlor and asked if I could take some pictures of this really cool car. They said yes. And again, only after I got back to got my HDR shots and walked away to realize that, you know what, there wasn't a whole lot of business there, and those are some really interesting people. I bet they would have come out and posed like for the foreground of that for me if I'd asked them to. Another recurring subject, the Boston Public Library. I just love this building. It was the architect by the name of McKim designed the inside and the out, and then he went on to do the New York Public Library, the main branch. And really, there's so much more detail and so much more warmth and so much more beauty to the Boston Public Library than to the Met. This was, if you walk through this library at exactly the right kind of day, if you're just pointing your camera at the right half of the building, you're going to get a really good shot. There's another back to the MIT flea market. I learned that if you go there with $100 in your pocket and decide to buy whatever's cool, you will leave that place without $100 in your pocket. Whereas if you go to the MIT flea market with a camera and an empty card and you focus on just looking for cool pictures, you will walk away with $100 in your pocket and some cool pictures. That's what I try to do. This was a collection of crucibles that were for sale, like arrayed on the garage floor, and so I get a little. I've been shooting the MIT flea market so many times that there is sort of I'm a known quantity there. So if I start messing with people's property, it's like, oh, okay, that's just Andy. That's okay. It's cool. So I want to restack it and just make it look cooler. I should probably be a little more careful about that. Okay, well, there's another photo series. I went to. I was on this one of the Mac Geeks cruises through Asia, and Leo was on this trip too. I think China and Japan and South Korea. And I'm packing for this trip 2 weeks, like in all these different countries. And you know how kind of crazy you get, like when you've got about another 20 minutes left before you really got to zip up the bag and go to sleep and get ready for the trip. I'm looking around saying, okay, do I need another toothbrush? I don't need another toothbrush. Okay, do I have like a USB charger? I think I already have 2, but let's take another 3. And then my eyes fall to the set of cow models that I'd bought in San Francisco just because they looked really cool. And then I'm blinking hard saying, should I take the cows? Like, why would you take the cars? Yeah, but if we get there and it turns out we needed cows, like, all right, shut up, we'll take the cows. You're an idiot. And then I realized that, oh, that's cool. Like now I have pictures of like the cows at the Forbidden City, the cows like in Shenzhen, all the cows in all these really cool places. So this is of course is the Holsteins at Pixar. The fun, it's stupid, and it's been done a long time with these traveling gnome pictures and the flat Stanley pictures. But I do find that it does get me really excited about photography because I mean seriously, I start to look at the scene about, well, if I want to get an iconic picture of them visiting this place, where do I want them to be? What are they going to be doing? Is the little boy going to be wandering off looking at something else? Are the parents sort of like looking after him? And again, it sounds crazy and stupid, but I will put it this way. A few days ago, I got an invitation to speak in Ireland at the end of April, and this wasn't the only reason why I accepted it, but I immediately thought, ooh, Ireland, I don't have a picture of the Holsteins in Ireland yet. So, oh yeah, and here's the Holsteins at Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Yeah, so believe me, name a world language, and I have had a stranger ask me, "Cose de cows." That's what I have to say. This is a portrait that came out rather well. That's James the Amazing Randy. I speak at this really cool conference at the University of Colorado every year, and that's often a good opportunity to take portraits of really interesting people.
I love that guy.
He is amazing, and he's twice as cool as you in person as you imagine him to be.
You should have put the cows in his beard.
They would have gotten lost, like fording a stream. Your responsibility is to the herd. And this is stupid. Okay, this is a tourist photo.
These are great.
Okay. I'm in Fort Hood. I'm walking around. I see this. I realize I get the idea for this photo. I realize there's a Sharpie marker in my pocket, and so picture me taking this picture as I'm both laughing and saying to myself, "Andy, you are such an idiot." But it's still one of my favorite pictures.
Well, I'm glad you drew it on your fingernail.
Exactly. There you go. Oh, there you go. There's another picture from China. Again, I really wish that I had the guts to be a Cartier-Bresson or a Ouija and just be that in people's faces. But man, this is just I really enjoy this because this really is the family vacation. This poor guy who has like 3 days off maybe, and he's got to spend it walking through this big tourist trap with his family, and the wife is trying to get him like, oh, we got to keep going. We got more sights to see. The kids are like bored and not really engaged. I thought I was pretty happy with that one. And the last one,
That's good.
The last one is from the public garden. I do take lots of pictures of squirrels because they are very willing subjects. If you have peanuts, they will do pretty much. They'll simply just pose and they will simply wait wherever you want to go. But this was the photo that got me to fall in love with the Nikon P7000 camera, pocket camera. I'm a really lucky guy as a photo fan in that almost every really cool camera that comes through that doesn't cost $3,000, I get to play with it for a month. And this is the shot that really got me in love with this Nikon camera because I just saw it. I thought, oh, if he lowers his head down like in 1/2 a second, this is not going to be a good photo. It immediately got the right exposure, immediately got the right focus, and that's why I was a little bit more ebullient in my review than otherwise might have been. But I am lucky in that I pass through the public garden several times a month, and if I know I've got a meeting nearby, my camera's in my pocket because if I got a half hour to take pictures, that's just the best thing ever, isn't it? So, and that's it.
Nice.
Cool.
Solid.
Yes.
It's we usually hardcore photographers, they're like, oh, this is so important, I really this speaks to me. And sometimes I think photographers forget to have fun with it. I mean, I do. I think a lot of other people do. So it's nice to see how much fun you have with it.
I've never actually seen you draw anything on your fingernail, Trey. So real opportunity for you here.
I got to leave a little meat on the bone. There's something else to maybe in the future.
Maybe we can start a little trend of like instead of flat Stanley, do flat Trey and have people shoot Trey all over the world.
That I like.
Hey, Eric. So one thing Andy was talking about, and this is, I love people photography. I'm not known for it, but I think once you like one kind of photography, you do all kinds. But anyway, when I do rarely publish street photography or people photos, I get, I'm sure the same kind of question you get 10x as much, and you may have a much better answer than I normally do, is people love to take photos of other people, right? Yes. Foreigners or interesting faces or pretty people or whatever it might be. But, I would bet safely that 97% of people just will not do it because they're scared or they don't know what to do. So there's just this pent up want to do it. So motivate us and give us some advice and give us some little nuggets to keep in our head, some bullet points that we can turn to in these emergency situations.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's one quote that really started me off in my street photography and just it was a huge revelation. It was by a street photographer named Robert Capa. He was actually a war photographer, and he founded Magnum Photos, one of the most prestigious photo agencies in the world. And he said, if your photos aren't good enough, you're not close enough. And I think when I was shooting around that time, I was using tele lenses and stuff like that. And there's another quote that I read on the internet that says, creepiness is proportional to focal length. So, if you're standing 2 blocks away using like a 70-200 Canon L lens on a 1DS Mark IV, you're probably doing it wrong. So ever since I've been reading that, I shoot 99% of my street photography. I shoot with a Leica, and I use a 35mm lens. And generally speaking, when I'm shooting, I'm at around 1 meter away, which is around 3 or 4 feet. So, I get really close to the subjects. And, one of the biggest challenges I had, too, is approaching strangers and taking photos without permission because, who does that, right? That's so weird. And, when I was at I went to UCLA for my undergrad and I studied sociology. And one of the things we learned is social experiments. So doing things that are outside the norm of what society says is okay, and just kind of seeing what happens. And whenever people say to me, oh, when you shoot street photography, don't you get punched in the face? Don't people kick you? Don't people whatever to you? And I've been shooting street photography the last 5 years, and honestly, I've only probably had 3 encounters which got somewhat physical. And I looked at my hard drive, and that's I've taken at least 1 million street photographs. So three negative experiences out of 1 million. I mean, if you do the math, you're probably more likely to get run over by a train or get hit by lightning or something like that. If there's any tips I could give to people who are starting off is, get close and don't ask for permission. Just take the photograph. But after taking the photograph, people look at you kind of like, oh, what the hell is this guy doing? And then just smile and say thank you. And really, 99% of the people will smile back and say, oh, you're welcome. And, I travel quite a bit, and people say, oh, yeah, that'll never work in London, that'll never work in LA, that'll never work in New York. And, I've been to all these places, and I did the same thing. And, generally speaking, the responses are actually quite good. And, I mean, sure, part of it, maybe I'm an Asian tourist with a camera, which is my disguise. But, I mean, it really is about being open and honest and, not being creepy about it is, I get close and I don't hide the fact that I'm taking a photograph, and people say, why'd you take my photograph? And I'm honest, I found something really interesting about, your face. I think that you're beautiful. Looking at, the way you interact with, your girlfriend or whatever, just makes me really, really touches me, and people love that. And sometimes I offer to email people the photographs. They love that as well. Every once in a while, people ask you to delete the photo, and if you're shooting digital, just delete the photo. But that's the good thing about shooting with film is that if someone asks me to delete it, I'm like, sorry, it's a film camera, and usually I'm able to get away with that.
Well, will you share some photos with us, please?
All right, so I'm going to try this screen share thing again. I think my computer is crashing on me. If not, maybe I'll just send you a link to my portfolio and you can share it.
Yeah,
let's see.
I can do it. That doesn't work.
Okay, I'm going to try this one more time.
Hey, RC, by the way, I see you joined us. How are you doing?
Hey, pretty good, man. Pretty good. What's going on?
Oh, not too much. We're just having a little photography and Apple love fest.
Nice. Yeah, I was mixing it up in the chat for a little while.
Yeah, I saw you in there. Hey, RC, tell your little story about how your iPad got you into the Star Wars shot deal.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool. Well, actually, Eric's back, so let's. Do you want to just knock out Eric real quick?
Bailing out. I'll have him. Hey, Dave, will you send me a link to his work, and then what I'll do is I'll share his work and kind of let him talk through it.
Sure.
Although my chat's messed up. Hold on. I'll get there another way.
I'll send it to you regular, Ryan.
The internet hates me. So Maybe, Trey, so I just put a link to my site, erickinphotography.com. Could you just pull that up on your screen and screen share it, and I could just go through a couple of my photographs and I could kind of narrate?
Yeah, no problem. Let me do screen share here.
Hey, Eric, are you using Chrome, by the way?
I was using Chrome, but then it actually didn't load up the Google Plus Hangout, so I'm using Safari. So, so I guess, yeah.
We keep using Tony too.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
which album do you want me to look at?
Oh shit! No. Just open up a new tab and just Google Eric Kim. I should be.
Oh, yeah, when you Google you, okay.
Yeah, Google Eric Kim. I'm #1. This is my.
What? You're the only Eric Kim?
Yeah, there's at least 10 billion Eric Kims out there, but I'm #1. Yeah, that's right.
You're the one they're all trying to kill.
Well, no, go back to the search.
Sorry, I'm not very good with Google. Okay, now what do you want me to do? Oh, this.
Go to Eric Kim International Street Food. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
You're like, those are my 3 words. Oh yeah. Okay.
So these are just some of my photographs. Yeah. So this is a photograph I've taken in Hollywood, and I want to ask you guys what is one thing about this lady you find interesting?
Her earrings.
Yeah. And usually when I show people this photograph, people think it's like, oh, you just pissed off this lady, and you're like such a a creep and so insensitive, scaring old ladies. And actually, the story behind the photo is, I saw her, and I'm like, for some reason, I don't know why, but I love old ladies with hats. Like, they must be my fetish or something. I don't know why. Sure. So I saw her, and I was shooting with, I think, a 24 millimeter with this. And, I got really close. Now, I had a flash in my left hand, and I was about to take the photograph, and then she saw me, and she posed with her hands and, like, give me, like, the jazz hands type of thing. And so this is actually a photo that she actually posed for me. And I think that, if you look at her, look at the earrings mismatching, that beautiful hat, and her hands, her rings, her jewelry, to me, she's the type of person who wants to show a bit of herself. She's got personality, she's got swagger, she's got character. And I think that's why I try to get through my photographs. If you go through my next photograph.
Yes, sir.
So this is another photo I've taken in Chicago. And it's a photo I was, during the time, I actually shot with a Canon 5D. And I borrowed a 17-40 lens from my friend. And I actually shot this at 17 millimeters. So I was literally, like, right next to his crotch when I took the photograph. And, the effect of using a wide-angle lens and getting really close to your subject is that, to you, the viewer, it makes you feel like you're really there. You could almost hear the music he's listening to, and you could see him dancing on the streets. And the perspective just really sucks you in and draws you in. If you go to the next photo, this is a photograph that I took in downtown LA. And I think the thing about street photography is, sure you want to take, interesting photos or whatnot, but to me, I studied sociology when I was in school. So I want my photos to be meaningful on a social level. Upon first glance, it's just an overweight woman with, ice cream stick, which is kind of, it's got an interesting juxtaposition. It's this huge lady and this tiny little popsicle stick. But to me, on a deeper level, this is a critique on American society, is that, a critique about overconsumption, and not just overconsumption in terms of food, but overconsumption in terms of media, television, everything that plagues us. And, once again, she's African American, and it's generally speaking, African Americans, Latinos who are in the lower socioeconomic ladder, who don't have the proper support to get affordable food, which is a lot healthier and doesn't cost you to be overweight. So a lot of what I try to get through my photos is trying to make social statements, and this is a photo that kind of makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable looking at it, but once again, hopefully the viewer will get some sort of message out of this that has a little deeper meaning. Next photo.
How do you keep people from posing for you, or do you try to get people to pose for you?
Well, I don't like photos I don't ask for permission when I'm taking my photos. Sometimes after I take the photo, I'll ask them to pose for me, but those photos never end up being interesting. But
Right.
I mean, a key part of it is just getting close, and there's a phrase.
Surprising them.
Well, there's a phrase, paralysis by analysis, is that if you think too much about taking a photo in street photography, you're going to get overcome with fear and concern, so you're not going to take the photo. So part of it is just getting close, seeing the opportunity, just taking the photo without thinking. And one thing I like to get in my photos is I like eye contact. To me, eyes, what they say, eyes are the windows to the soul. So this is a photo I just took outside. I was in a Starbucks and I just exited, and I immediately saw this mannequin looking straight at me, and I'm like, oh, that might be interesting if I had somebody else sitting next to her looking at me. And there just happened to be the security guard standing there. And so what I did is I brought up my camera, and what I do is I just wait until they sense my presence and look at me, then I take the photograph.
Yes. You don't say hey. You just let them notice you.
Yeah, I usually just wait. I mean, Elliot Irwin, a very famous street photographer, he actually walked around with a bike horn and sometimes honks it. And,
Great idea.
He has a lot of famous photos of dogs jumping in the air. That's because he actually honks at horns or even barks at dogs, and sometimes he does it to people.
Is he the one that has all the series of shots,
Yes.
like the sequences?
He's done lots of books on dogs, street photographs all around the world. He's very famous. But generally what I like to do is I just hold the camera up, wait for them to look at me, then I'll take the photo. Next photo.
Cool. Do you ever get in trouble? Do people ever yell at you? Or because I have to say, because you get people looking at you, they all look somewhat confrontational. They all look like they're, a little suspicious of you.
Well, generally speaking, I'll tell you guys some interesting stories of where actually people do get a little physical. There's a photo I took in Tokyo, and this guy was like 6'2", and he looked like kind of a gangster type, and I was just really drawn to him. So I'm like, all right, screw it. I might or might not get in trouble. So I shoot with flash a lot. So when I'm taking photos with a flash, of course, people are going to notice even more. And what happened was, I took a photo and I just kept walking, and then the guy ran up behind me. And he kicked me in my messenger bag, my camera bag, and I was actually shooting with a flash off camera. I was using a wireless trigger on my flash. So my flash just goes flying, hits the wall, explodes into a million pieces, batteries go flying, and the guy comes up to me, and he looks a little bit crazy in the eyes, like he's going to kill me. And, I just said, I just bowed, and I apologized, I said sorry, and I just walked away. That's like the freak accident. But other than that, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just taking a photograph, and, generally speaking, people will just ask you, what are you doing, and just ask you to delete the photo. And once again, if someone asks you to delete the photo, you just delete the photo, and it's not really a big deal.
If I look like this, do you think that it would be less intimidating and people would be less likely to get beat up?
I think
I was nuts.
I think if you put on an Asian mask, you'd actually be a lot more safe. I mean,
I'm getting a bicycle horn. That's what I want.
I think you need flaps on the side too.
My favorite trick on that entire thing is just looking past people.
Yeah.
Like I'll spend a lot of time, like whenever you're taking a picture, you'll take a picture of a person and you just kind of sit there and just take the picture. And a lot of the times there's that brief second of, did he just take a picture of me? And if you just look past them, you're just like, Then all of a sudden it's like it plays vanity plays, and then because it's like, well, if I say something and it's not me, and I'm going to look like an idiot, so I'm not going to say anything, and I'm just going to pretend like it's something else, and you just keep walking away.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, I want to have you back on. I'll get a bunch of street photographers.
Keep going.
We'll do a longer thing because we could talk about this forever.
That was just one of my favorite subjects. I love it. It's so interesting.
That was a little amuse-bouche for people. Hey, Victor, do you have something you'd like to share? Do you have
sure
4 or 5 photos you might want to rip out there?
You got it.
Okay. We have high expectations, Victor Cajiao.
How about just sharing my photo? There we go. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is taken with the iPhone. During Macworld, I went with Steve to shoot some pictures at the bridge, and I forgot my camera battery. No camera battery. So, okay, time to eat my own dog food. took the iPhone, took the picture, processed it on Snapseed, published it that very same instant into Twitter, and this is it. This is the end result, and just really a lot of fun. Just a fun picture. It was a beautiful day in the bridge, so I was able to do that and really enjoyed it. This one here, and the next one coming, let me get you guys off of there. This is taken at Fort Lincoln, North Dakota, where my wife and family live. And we went there just to do the touristy thing really early in the morning. Some of the Dawsons were sitting there. And I just thought, wow, this brought me back to that time, what it must have been like, you know, really.
And we don't see the new photo.
Oh, you don't? Okay. All right. That's probably because I'm not doing it right.
Some kind of Mac expert you are.
Hey, man, this is good. Okay, here we go. Desktop. There we go. You'll see it now. There we go. That's the new photo. There we go. Fort Lincoln, Bismarck, North Dakota, and really great locale. And I just like the old feel with this. This is done with Nick, and just a picture. Like you, Trey, I like taking pictures of all kinds of things. This was done during the Kelby Photo Walk this year, and we went to the San Diego Wild Animal Park. And this was a shot right before I left. The guy was just showing this bird, and I happened to get one of those shots that everything was as sharp as I wanted it to be, and it was so much fun to be able to see this. I just think it really is majestic. I don't know if it's an eagle. If somebody knows what kind of bird this is, tell me, because I don't know. So
looks like a hawk of some type. Okay,
cool. And then took some pictures just the other day down the street at a little place called Tom's Farms. This is with the new camera. I'm really just getting used to it. And this one I just thought was really neat. And this one is like a girl can have what she wants.
That's
and
pretty.
It brought me back to my little sister, I guess, when I used to watch her. So I love
like that.
This one of the. I think this is the fourth picture I ever took with the Leica, and it really captured. There's no processing, nothing, just right out of the camera. This picture here brings me back to Cuba, my homeland. This is also taken with a Leica, and I just imagine this being in Havana and El Vedado and being able to see this picture there, and I just thought it captures to me that time. I missed going there. I know Leo and I have talked about going back to Cuba, and I would love to take some of these pictures really in my homeland. That would be a real honor.
You're from Cuba, Victor.
I am from Cuba, yeah. I came here in 1968.
That's why you're so sexy.
Don't give away all our secrets. And then this last picture here I'm going to show is a picture that I take every time I get a new camera. I take this picture right down the street from the house there at a mall of the Japanese bamboo bridge. And I always take that same picture because I can do a contrast and compare. I love the lines of this bridge, and I can really sit there and compare to what it's like. So I'm really literally a typical shutterbug. I shoot all kinds of stuff, and I love doing it. And I'm learning every time I shoot. I learn.
Cool. Thanks, Victor. All right, Steve, you can do it, and then I've got 4 new ones to share, and then we'll show some photographer discoveries that we've made.
All right, let's see if this works. So we're going to do screen share, and let's see. And any second now. Okay, there it is. All right, this first shot actually was taken not that far from here. It's a town called Keyport, and what's kind of interesting about it, I live in New Jersey, and I used to post a lot of sunset photos, and I used to get people going, how are you taking photos of the sun setting over water on the East Coast? And it looked like the ocean. I mean, it's a pretty wide bay. It's because this is a north-facing bay, so we can actually get sunset and sunrise photos here. This photo is kind of HDR and kind of tilt-shifted, and let me go ahead and just see if I can move that to the center. It looks like the Mac's a little bogged down with everything going on. But as you'll see from the photos, just really into the water, the beach, fishing boats, even though the last time I went out on a fishing boat, I really don't want to go into what happened. But it's just, I'm just kind of drawn to the water, and I guess that whole kind of life that these these people have when they go out and fish and stuff like that. This was actually taken in San Francisco down by Fisherman's Wharf when I was out there back in January for Macworld. I just really kind of like the way that the boats line up. Did some processing here using both Nix software and On1 plugins in Photoshop. I've been kind of working on this project for a while, this kind of Americana type, and trying to define Americana in a way, and this is pretty much an American flag just nailed right to a wooden wall and a fence rather with a grill with a smoker right in front of it. I just really kind of like the light at the time of the day, and I just really kind of like the detail, which I don't know how much of it's coming through, but really kind of just the detail in the fence. This is another shot that was shot locally, and there's something to be said for shooting locally that if you go and you don't get the shot you necessarily want, you can actually go back at different times of the day or different lighting situations and stuff. And this, we were actually going to shoot something else, and there was some sort of garden supply place right across the street, and they had these 3.5-foot tall pink and maroon, purple, and all these different colored Buddhas. And a couple of things that kind of strike me about this were the water stains on its face look like tears. And also, again, I don't know how well it's come across in the video, but the reflection of the trees and the surrounding area in the forehead and in the head kind of looks like a, just thought in a way. I've also heard people say, what is it, a self-portrait? And those people got punched in the eye. Since we were talking about iPhone and iOS photography, this is actually a shot taken with the iPhone, edited on the iPad, and the reason why I bring it up here, because this is one of those shots that really, who kind of cares? I mean, us as photographers really seem to care about how an image is made and how it's processed. We need to remember it's kind of what the end result is, and if it speaks to somebody. I've sold this print. People have approached me to actually buy this, so who cares? I mean, really, who cares? Again, if they find a photo that they like, for whatever purpose, really, as a photographer, I think we've kind of done our job regardless of what we've shot with. And just an HDR photo, just because, again, we're on talking with Trey, and I had to throw one of my HDRs in there. It's actually an HDR from a single shot. I think probably one of my favorite done that way, an HDR that was done from a single photo. I just really like it. Another photo that people see and they just kind of look at it and they're not quite sure if it's animated or like an animation, like a computer graphic, or if it's actually a true photo, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. And really the last one here is just my attempt at street photography, and I thought it was kind of funny how you had the cop crossing the street against the light. And that's why I call this one Walk, Don't Walk, because it's very obvious that he really shouldn't be doing what he's doing. And that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. All right, Leo, before I share my photos, the chat room is begging that you share at least one photo. They say you're just being humble.
Not being humble. I'm humbled by the amazing photographers you have here. All right. I guess I could show something. I shouldn't. That's false humility. I mean, I suck, but it's not. But there's no reason. Okay, so all right, let's see how this works. I will share this window, and then I will go over here.
You have so much photography equipment. Surely you can squeeze out a few winners.
one or two. I like to take travel shots. I mean, I'm so humble compared to somebody like you, Trey, where you travel all over the world and get great shots. This is the Great Pyramid, and you don't usually see it this way. When you see it up close, it's interesting because it's really big blocks. It's chunky. And so I wanted to kind of capture that chunk of the...
So it's like Minecraft.
Yeah, it is. It's very much like Minecraft. Let me see. I put everything on SmugMug, so anybody would... But actually, that was kind of a fun one of my daughter and my son. on the streets of Cairo. This is the Cairo police. There were guns everywhere, and it was really kind of struck by the number of weapons.
You should have went there and shot a photo with a flash, Leo.
Yeah, no, like this is a Nubian village.
That's cute.
And they have beautiful color, even though they're really in a very dry area.
I love it how there's the two kids and then the two blue windows mimicking.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
quite
you.
nice.
Thank you. This is when you're going down the Nile in a boat, these kids come up on boats and grab a hold and ask for money. And this kid is actually singing a song at the top of his lungs as we go down the Nile at high speed. It's quite dramatic. This is actually inside one of the pyramids here. I'll show you this one. It's really it's hard not to take a good interesting pictures in Egypt because it's so dramatic, so amazing. Anyway, just a couple, just to satisfy the chat room, okay? Here's one last one. This was a time exposure that I kind of liked. These temples are just dramatic as hell. I can't remember which one it is, but just loved it. There you go.
Very cool.
Beautiful.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Sure. Okay, I'll share 4 unpublished photos. You guys will be the first in the world to see them. This is in Oahu. This is a famous little island there called Chinaman's Hat. And
Oh, that's racist, man.
But look at it, it is.
That's true.
I know, it really offends all the other...
You should have heard what they wanted to call it.
But I thought this was kind of neat. There's this Japanese couple down here
That's nice.
who are wearing little matching outfits.
Oh.
Or actually, it's a matching dress.
Nice.
I think I found Waldo.
And they're using their iPhone to take a picture of themselves in front of
Oh,
them.
sweet.
It's kind of cute. Actually, I followed them around for about 30 minutes. It was kind of a little weird at one point. But this is my favorite shot of this. Here's another one that I took a couple weeks ago in LA at Union Station. And Union Station is a great old train station. It's great for architecture shots and for people shots because the lighting is really cool and all kinds of people come through and they basically kind of walk right at you. So it's great for people photography and this is a kind of a good situation. I use 2 cameras. I usually have my big camera set up on my tripod and then I keep a hip shooter. In this case, it's a D3S with a 50 millimeter prime, so that I can get shots that come up. Because if I have to change lenses and take my camera off the tripod, I never would have got these. So I don't publish many of these, but I take a ton of them.
You should shoot some more street photography, Trey. This is
Nice.
This is a nice moment.
My favorite picture of me is one Trey took of me and Tom Anderson walking down the street at Petaluma. It's got a very gritty feel to it. It's just a great picture. It's on my Facebook page. Yeah.
Here's one that I took in Hawaii last week. I think I took this with a 600 millimeter lens.
Oh man.
That's gorgeous.
Handheld. Very. I couldn't handhold that thing for very long, but while I did, I got this one. Really cool area there. Huge explosive waves. I was there in the middle of the storm. In fact, the storms were so bad that they declared part of Hawaii a disaster zone because of these storms. Here's one last picture I'll share. This is on Oahu. This is very close. Actually, this is where they shot Lost. So I kind of went around all the same areas where they filmed Lost, and it was fun because I was a big fan of the show, and I was able to recognize structures and scenes and where the smoke monster was and and all that.
This photo
stuff.
really glows. It feels like you're in some fairy tale or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are my photos.
Now, Trey, do you use, so you're using largely the iPad to work on getting access more than you are editing, or
Well,
are you using it
sometimes
to simplify your elevator pitch, or are you just...
Well, if I'm going to a location where I don't know if they'll let me take photos, I will, I'll have my assistant or someone try to get me in. But a lot of times you just don't know. You just show up. Like, I was at Disney World with Keith Barrett, and I have lots of connections at Disney World, so I could, like, pull strings and get in anywhere, but it's kind of a pain. I don't like to do that. And I remember I was on the Haunted Hollywood Tower ride, and it's the Twilight Zone ride. They take you in this one room, and you watch Rod Serling, and the lights go crazy. Then they move everyone over to the elevators. Well, I stayed in the room after everyone left to take my photos. I got down in the corner with my 14-24 and started shooting, and the people were like, "What's wrong with this guy?" And then I whipped out the iPad. I went over and I said, "Well, this is the kind of stuff I do."
That's fine.
And they got kind of transfixed by it. And I said, "Do you think I could go shoot the lobby?" And they said, "Oh, of course." And then they started taking off the ropes and took me around everywhere.
Sweet.
And so they just, if they see that I just love photography and I'm just doing it like, for the fun of it, I'm not trying to sell photos or, I'm just a guy having a good time. They can sense that, just like the way when Eric smiles when he takes photos of people. They can sense something about you by the way you present yourself and the way you share your photography. So the iPad has gotten me into hundreds of places that I couldn't have gotten in with my somewhat, questionable level of charm.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about. Like when we're looking at it from an iPad standpoint, like a lot of times people are like, do you edit? Do you do this and do you do that? And I'm like, it just simplifies for me. Like we were talking about the Star Wars thing earlier. And I was like, for me, it just, rather than sit there and go, all right, well, I'm going to take a whole bunch of pictures, and I need you to stand completely still, and I need you to do this, and then I'm going to work on this kind of stuff. And it's just, it's too much information for somebody to sit there and kind of go, I don't know if I want to let you do this. And instead, I'll just turn around and just go, listen, I just want to do this. And the moment that you turn around and you show them that, they're like, yeah, I want that. That's exactly what I want. And that's what had happened at the Star Wars thing. I mean, I was pretty much laughed out. They were just like, listen, pay us our ticket, go away. And I turned around and I did handhelds of this one shot. And I ran out to the car. I had my laptop there. I processed it. And I came back and I said, you see this? This is kind of what I want to do. And all of a sudden it went from, go away to they're holding people back. And they're like, all right. So here, I'll show you the one shot. Here, take a look at this.
You sold this print and made a good amount of money too, right?
Yeah. So this is there.
Hey Trey, are you locked onto yourself in the Hangout? By any
No,
chance?
I'm not. Do people see me locked onto myself?
In
your
version of the stream, on your version of the stream, it's only just showing.
Yeah. So this was at that Hangout, like at that Star Wars convention. And it was like, to be able to get that was just, this was the shot that I did that got me in, which I didn't like. It was just a dude that was there, and I was just like, you know what, let me go ahead and do that, and let me go ahead and just kind of knock this out. I came back in, and I'm like, I want to shoot your full-size TIE fighter, and I want you to get rid of everybody that's in the area. And they're like, oh, get away, quick, a photographer's here. And I'm like, this thing better not suck. And after that, like, they started getting just a whole bunch of different people, and they would turn around, they would just be like, all right, well, this will be kind of cool. And as I was standing looking at this shot, a guy next to me was just like, hey, you know what, could I take a picture in there? And I looked down, and I was like, hey, little buddy, get in there. And it turned out to be, oh, no way. So he was there, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then he was hanging out with this guy, who's a guy by the name of Steve Stanger, who's like the director of fan relations for Lucasfilm. And literally, like,
I love it. And he doesn't want to be uncool and say, "Can I get a picture of myself with the TIE fighter?" You're doing
and I was just like, dude, get in there, buddy. Go, let's go. So
That's
we went
awesome.
back and we did some shots, and I actually it was funny because they were just like, all right, well, you know, can you come back the following day and do some other shots? And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to cost you like $52 to start because you guys got to pay for my ticket because I just paid for it. And I actually made this shot of, this is the girl who actually built it. And her and her dad built it. And this is a kind of a mixed speed light shot. So it's 3 speed lights inside of there plus some HDR. And it's, at the end of the day, it's just about access. Like, it's like I went to this church and I was just like, dude, can I get in? I want to do this. The guy's like, not only can you get in, I'm going to kick this homeless guy out. I said, oh. There you go, next shot.
Oh, man.
So it's access. It's like talking to a carny. It's like you talk to a carny and hold still, carny. I want to take a whole bunch of pictures. But
that looks like Bruce Peterson.
Right? So it's just, at the end of the day, it's just, for me, it's just been a tool to just kind of show people, look, this is what I want to do. It's like, you know, I'm this serious about it. I'm going to make you look really good. Just let me try. And I think that people can kind of sense that kind of stuff, and they're willing to give you
a tool
kind of
to show people that you're not a tool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you know you're kind of trying it, and if you hear about it, it's cool.
Well, let's share a few Google Plus discoveries. I'll start here and kind of show mine really quick, and then we'll move through. This is a neat guy that people should circle up. His name is Peter Fromm, maybe From. I think I'm saying that right. He sounds kind of Euro. By the way, here's a little tip. You know, if you hit spacebar, it gets rid of that ugly white comment box, and you can just see it full. So this guy takes really cool shots. This is just some examples. I'll kind of pull through them real quickly here, and maybe I'll give you enough of an idea that you can follow him yourself. I think he photoshops his stuff. That's, of course, fine with me. Anything that makes something pretty, I don't care how it's done, as long as it looks pretty to me.
He also does a lot of iPhoneography.
Yeah, he's got a wide range. So anyway, there is a little bit of Peter. That's my little discovery to share with you guys. Victor, do you have one you want to share?
I do. Let me get
we'll go in order from right to left here.
This is Michel Delange, and I just found this stuff absolutely fascinating, his use of light.
You're a little quiet, Victor. Can you get closer?
Am I? Okay.
Yeah.
I just found him yesterday after you mentioned you were going to do this and stumbled onto this, and now I've definitely favored him. Just love the way that he uses color, and it's wonderful, wonderful stuff. That's Michel Delange. There you go.
Cool.
You want to spell that for everybody?
Sure, I can do that. It's Michiel and Delange.
Excellent. Cool. And when I repost a video, Dave does me a great service, and I can plus mention everybody so that you can follow and circle everybody. Also, I apologize. I got some messages that Google Hangouts was messing up. Usually it will auto switch to whoever's talking, and I've left it off, and I've seen it auto switching, but I guess it hasn't been working for everybody. So I apologize. The final recording will be good because Tony's doing it at the Twit Network, so the podcast version will look good. Anyway, I'm sorry, but it's not my fault. Anyway, let's go next to Teresa. Hello, Teresa.
Hey, how are you? I love Nathan Worth, of course. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him and have him circled already. Is it sharing?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. His work is just amazing, and I've been a fan of his for a long, long time. When you asked the big one, I'm like, there's no way. But I have to quickly show you Nikki Aguirre. I love her work. Her work is a portrait work mainly, but it tells a story. It's just the most astounding, color-rich, vibrant pictures, and they're just very, very beautiful. And Nikki, she's always been one of my favorites. She's one of the first ones that I found when I got here on Google+, and I've loved her and followed her stuff ever since.
Cool. You snuck in an extra one there, but that's okay.
I did. Sorry.
Allow it.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, Teresa. All right, Steve.
Okay. Let's see if it's over. Can you see the share?
No, we see you.
Okay, it should be coming up in a second, hopefully.
Not yet.
No, come on.
Maybe you could act out the photo.
You should do interpretive dance.
No, that's something you don't want to say. Let's see. It should be going now.
Yes.
Okay.
We see it now.
This is Mark. He's known as Switcher Mark on Twitter and Flickr, and Switcher Mark P here on Google+. And I've gotten to know Mark. He's a Mac user also, into photography. I actually got to meet Mark out at Macworld this year and hang out with him for a little bit. I love taking photos of, that rusty and crusty kind of stuff. And the holy grail, to me, would be finding a school or a barn or a church in the middle of a field, and he found it. And I absolutely just love his photo. He's just a great landscape photographer. He lives up in the Northwest. I need to get on his case to actually get more photos onto Google+, but he does have a Flickr site that he actually shares a lot of his photos on. But you need to check out, he has a Zenfolio page, this Twin Lakes Images. And if you're not seeing it yet, in a second you will see a slideshow from his website of some of his landscapes and some of his photos. And what's really cool is he is starting to get some recognition now. He's done a number of art shows. He even had some photos on display at Macworld on the second floor. They had like a digital expo where they actually printed photos and had them hung, and it, really, really nice guy and great photographer.
Cool, thank you. Hey, before we continue on the left side of the 10 little squares here, I'll give a quick plug for next week. Next week, we're talking all about Pinterest. And it'll be a wild and woolly show. I know this is a very controversial subject. On Wednesday, I have a phone call with the CEO of Pinterest, and I'm going to try to turn my charm up to 11 to see if I can get him to join the hangout. Chances are low, but maybe. Anyway, if you guys have questions in the meantime, let me know, and I'll fire them away and see if I could bring back some gold to our mines of Moria. Okay. So, RC, I didn't ask you to prepare anything, so we'll skip you. Don't worry about it. Leo, did you have some photographer discovery that you wanted to?
Yeah, I could share somebody with you. I think you guys know that I am originally from Rhode Island, and I found this guy named Ed King who takes beautiful landscapes. Can you see him?
Yes.
Of my old state of Rhode Island, and Rhode Island is the ocean state, so there's a lot of oceanscapes, and it makes me feel like I'm back home. So this is Ed King, and he was not in one of my original circles, and so when I found him, because I have like 500 photographers in my circles now. There's so many of you guys, but this is a new one for me, so I hope it's a new one for you too.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah,
hey, Leo, while we have you here, what's going on with Twit Photos tomorrow?
That's a great question.
Peter Krogh, I believe, is.
Peter Krogh, my old friend Peter is going to be on. So Peter wrote the Digital Asset Management book, the DAM book, and is one of the most interesting photographers. I think he's just so creative. He's always looking at new ways to take pictures. He's very technical, very technically oriented. I think you'll enjoy it. And he is an expert on workflow and digital asset management. So I think a lot of photographers will get something out of that as well. Peter Krogh.
Awesome.
Tomorrow, that's 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern on twit.tv.
All right. Good. Eric.
All right, so I'm gonna plug it. Trey, I put it in the chat. I have a link to it.
Oh, right.
With your.
Well, my chat is broken.
I can do it. Let me do it. I can do it.
Okay, all right, we'll get Leo to do it.
Yeah, I have the technology.
So this photographer I'm going to share with other people, for those of you guys who are interested more in street photography, is actually a good friend of mine. His name is Thomas Lloyd Tard. He's a street photographer from Switzerland. If you scroll down a little bit, he recently, I think just today or so, released a free, that's it, a free street, go left. He's published 2 free street ebooks on street photography, and this is his third, titled Street Faces. And he's quite possibly one of the most enthusiastic and giving people I know. He loves street photography so much, publishes all these free books, and has done a lot of charity work with the street photography as well. This guy has balls of steel. He's the one who's taught me to get close to people, get eye contact.
Buns of steel, apparently.
That as well. And yeah, he's a great person. I really respect what he does. And if you go to his website, 85mm.ch, all of his books are available there for people to download for free. And I recommend everyone to circle him and stay updated with him.
Man, I love street photography. What is the camera that you use, Eric? You mentioned it before, but
well, I have 2 cameras. I used to shoot a lot with my old Leica M9, but ever since I've been, the last 3 months I've been shooting exclusively film, the Leica M6. It's actually a great film camera for anyone who wants to buy a Leica but doesn't want to shell out $7,000 for an M9. I believe you could buy the M6 for around 1,200, 1,300 euros. So it's not cheap, but it's definitely a lot more affordable, and it's one of the most bulletproof film cameras out there. And of course the lenses, which are quite expensive, but yeah, fantastic camera, and love the look of film.
Excellent. Okay, we will end with you, Andy.
I'm sorry, I came unprepared. I do not have a recommendation.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Well, you can take Teresa's second.
Exactly. There you go. Thank you, Teresa.
Very nice of you, Teresa.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, thank you, everybody. This was great. These are always hard to end because they don't ever have to end. They're always a forced ending to a natural hangout. So I'm sorry for that. We'll maybe keep hanging out a little bit after this. But as for the actual show, it will end thusly. So thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate you, and we'll do it again. We can all just wave goodbye from our little Brady Bunch windows.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.